Hey everybody, what's up? It's Chase. Welcome to another episode of the Chase Jarvis Live Show here on CreativeLive. You know the shows where I sit down with amazing humans and I do everything I can to unpack their brains with the goal of helping you live your dreams in career, in hobby, and in life. My guest today, before I get there, I know is someone you're excited to hear from, and we're going to do that. But before we do, just a reminder that we are live on lots of different platforms right now, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's probably like 10 others. I do get to see your comments, but I see them first if you watch at creativelive.com/TV. And I'm excited to first hear from everyone where they're coming from around the planet. I'm already seeing South Africa is always like one of the first. There it is, South Africa. We've got Australia. I don't even know what time it is in those time zones, but it's great to see that there are a global audience tuned in for our guest. And before I welcome her, just a short bio. Sophia Amoruso, who you're here to hear from today, is a serial entrepreneur and, of course, a New York Times bestselling author. She's been featured on the cover of Forbes and in the Fortune 40 Under 40, the Forbes 30 Under 30, Inc. 30 Under 30. If there was a 20 under 20 and a 10 under 10, I'm sure she would be there as well. Fast Company's most creative people in business and named one of Forbes' richest self-made women. Her 2014 New York Times bestseller Girl Boss chronicled her early life as the experience and founder of Nasty Gal. It was also adapted into a TV series that premiered on Netflix and produced by Charlize Theron. Sophia made her mark when she founded Nasty Gal, an amazing company, and bootstrapped it to $30 million in profitability, raising $60 million in venture. I've had the good fortune of knowing Sophia for a number of years, seen all the success that she's created for herself, and she's also going to share something special and new with you today, which I'm very excited for her to talk about. I did get a sneak peek a little bit earlier. But please, wherever you are, tap on your desk, raise the roof, tap on some keys, and give a warm welcome to Sophia Amoruso is in the house. Sophia, thank you for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Nice to hear your voice. I just hear two of them right now, so I don't know what's going on with the echo, but I trust it's the internet and it will work itself out. I am super happy to welcome you, and I do want to say congratulations on your new online course, which you just self-published today called Business Class. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
It's crazy. It's beautiful. Also, I confess, everybody out there on the internet, I got a sneak peek, and it is incredible. And we'll get to that. But first, tell where in the world are you right now? You're at your home in LA. Where are you?
I'm in sunny Los Angeles.
Nice.
It's not smoky. It's sunny now. But yeah, I'm at home. I don't leave.
Nor do I. I've got this background here we were just talking about before we got on live. It kind of looks like, sadly, like San Francisco or LA like last week. That maybe a poor choice on my part, but it's a painting I got from a friend of mine named Mac that I was excited to share, making my background. Wow. So if I was to start somewhere in this conversation, I would want to start back at the beginning of your, what I would call it, entrepreneurial journey. And as you know, the people who pay attention to me and CreativeLive, they're creators and entrepreneurs. They identify as that and or creative people. They want to live their life on their terms. And I think that often starts at a really young age. And I'm curious to hear from you where you got your start. What was some of the earliest entrepreneurial mindsets that you remember or experiences that you had? And, you know, was it just being an independent person, or what paved the way for you to get where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much unemployable, and I think that's where it began. And I didn't intend to start my first business as like a thing that would become a thing that would get really big. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 22 years old and, you know, was using these tools that we all have at our disposal. At the time, it was eBay, PayPal, and MySpace. And now there's, you know, Venmo, Shopify, Squarespace, Etsy, Facebook, Instagram. Very different time. I'm not like that old. I was like 22. It was just like, because it was 15 years ago. But, you know, bootstrapped Nasty Gal, which was a vintage clothing store on eBay, to $30 million in revenue profitably from, you know, the back of my 87 Volvo, just
Nice.
flipping clothes, and then raised about $60 million in venture capital and built it to over $100 million in revenue. Whatever. I guess that's not the beginning, but it was like, I just put one foot in front of the other. I did things that I did things that worked again, and I didn't do things that didn't work. So it seemed very logical to me, like, don't spend more money than you have, sell things for more than you buy them for. I guess don't sit on inventory too long. And then what doesn't work, just stop doing it quickly and iterate quickly. And I didn't consider this, like, I didn't consider an MVP or iteration or pivoting or any of these terms. And I did eventually kind of pivot the business and started selling, other people's brands and curating other people's brands. And then eventually we had our own in-house line. But it was just a lot of common sense, and, Googling, YouTubing, so much of what you want to learn is on the internet. It's the sources can be, debatably valid, and who you're learning from, and that's kind of why I think it's important to listen to people like you who built businesses, and why I just started what we're going to talk about. But I did learn a lot just from Google and from putting one foot in front of the other, and it's fun. Like, and I'm doing it now. Like, I'm bootstrapping this business, and there's nothing like uploading an image to your website, or like optimizing something, or writing copy and being really proud of it. Or it's so great to be like on the ground with my business again, and I kind of don't want that to change with this one. Like, I don't want investors. Yeah, so going back to the beginning. No.
Where in the beginning it was just you and your, would you say 87 Volvo?
Yep.
And what was sweet about that you feel like you've returned to? Because so many people, just to qualify my question here, so many people, their vision of their business is to try and make it as big as possible and get 150 or 250 or 1,000 employees and have hundreds of millions in revenue. And to be fair, these are journeys that both of us have taken, and yet here you are, back not quite out of your 87 Volvo, but trying to replicate a thing that you had. And I want to know why. What was so good about that made you want to come back? And what are you running to something or from something or both?
I'm not running. I'm just here. I've been running to things, or just being kind of pushed along by my business and its growth. Honestly, in my first business, it wasn't controllable. In my second business, I was, I had a chip on my shoulder. So I started Girl Boss after the book and the Netflix series. It was a company for 3 years that I sold at the end of last year. And it wasn't really about proving to anybody else that I could get up and whatever, be resilient. I have a mortgage. So yeah, I like made myself employed with my own business again. It's not some magical thing that I'm resilient. I just have, have 3 poodles that require haircuts, that are barking right now. But with this, with Girl Boss, I really wanted to, like, it was an exercise, both in building an incredible community and a great business, but also in proving to myself that I could get culture right, that I could, there was so much, leadership and management. A lot of it was about culture and leadership management. It's like, I'm sure I made mistakes, but for the most part, I built like a really pretty happy place to work. And that's not something I did at my first company. I'd never worked in an office before. I had no idea what culture even meant. And with business class, which we'll get into, I just want to share, 15 years of, hard-won knowledge and, learnings that have cost a lot of money for me to learn, and hopefully, will save a lot of other people time and money by sharing them. So really, it's like, I mean, this isn't like an altruistic endeavor. Like, this is a business, but it's also, I'm really just harvesting everything that I've learned and all of my experiences to give other people the kind of periphery that's taken me a really, really long time to get.
Well, I think it's fair to say that the folks who are tuned in from Colombia, Portugal, London, New York, LA, South Africa, Malaysia, are curious to know the why behind your new thing. Clearly, you've had all kinds of adventures in business. You've gone the venture route. You talked about bootstrapping, and what you've dropped today, as I mentioned earlier, is an online class. It's your first one that you've self-produced and put out there in the world, and it's called Business Class. And I'm guessing that those people from all those countries that I listed from around the world want to know a little bit more specifically why? Like, why are you doing this instead of any of the other things that you could be doing with your time?
Totally. It's awesome you have such an international audience because something like half of my audience is international. I don't know if it's because the book was in a bunch of different countries or the Netflix series, and it's awesome to make an impact on such a big scale like what you're doing. And the course it's anybody can register for it anywhere in the world. The why, I think I actually did this exercise, but uh, you know, entrepreneurs don't really have access to the kind of knowledge that people who've actually built these businesses in like modern times, or people whose stories are relatable, who have bootstrapped and who have built really large businesses and learned the hard way what works and what doesn't. That doesn't really exist. There are business courses that are kind of lightweight, that are like, okay, like let's give you, it's like a glorified YouTube video where someone's being interviewed off camera, and they're talking about whatever they're prompted to talk about. But like, this is not just about listening, this is about doing. So I have a tattoo on my arm that says words tend to be inadequate. It's pretty regrettable. I missed a flight in Miami. I got off of uh, what's that thing called? Summit at
Oh yeah,
sea.
I was
I
on
got
that ship.
I
Yes.
got off of it before it left port. I was like, I don't like this. I was supposed to speak, and I'm not like a diva, but I was just like, I'm so trapped. This is hell. So I ended up spending a week in Miami and got the stupid tattoo. But it's true, right? Words are important. I use a lot of words. I write books. There's 200 pages of worksheets in this course that I've written that are, you fill them out, um, you're really working on your own business, but it's an action plan, right? So this isn't just like sit and learn. It's not academic. I'm not an academic. I didn't go to college. I'm technically not qualified. I mean, I don't know the what an expert is and what qualifications are. I think is really changed with technology and really been democratized in a way that creatives like you have started businesses and really done well. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. We're unlikely entrepreneurs. And that's the majority of entrepreneurs today. These aren't people who, worked at the right company or necessarily went to the right school. We hear those stories of the Stanford dropout, but they're few and far between. And they're building these unicorn businesses. And that's not like, that's not what it's about. I was just talking to Arlen Hamilton.
Oh yeah, I love
Um,
Arlen. She's been on the
she's
show. Good
great.
friend. Good friend.
Yeah. Uh, and she used the term the zebra movement. So there's the unicorns who build the billion-dollar businesses, and there's the zebra movement that we didn't get into it, but I think it's about like the non like unicorn billion-dollar business kind of founder. And after having been, again, I wasn't a unicorn, but I built a business that was worth, valued at $350 million, owned 80% of it, and had hundreds of employees. It's like on the other side of it, it's just like none of that matters. The lists don't matter. I want to share with people what really matters and save them the time of like shooting for the glory that like is in my bio, that is validating and credibility, and it's great. It's a great story, but like none of that stuff matters. And honestly, building a massive business and raising venture capital, I've done it. You're not in control of your life anymore. You're beholden to your business. You're beholden to stakeholders, in employees, in investors, in customers, and you have so many people to please. And it's just not fun. It seems very glamorous, right, on the outside, because here I am on the cover of a book being like, yeah, but it was a shit show. I never want that again. So I think just it's, what I'm trying to do is kind of reframe in some ways, like what success means as an entrepreneur or a founder. And it doesn't have to be entrepreneur with an E, or founder with a, with a capital E, or founder with a capital F. It's like you can be a small business owner and a founder. You don't have to sit on panels. It's like the millennial dream to sit on panels. And again, that's not what it's about. So this is for the person that like I relate to, for someone who probably has more of an education than me because I'm a community college dropout, but for someone who's probably an accidental entrepreneur and isn't going to go online and take like a weird ass stale MBA program or go to business school and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn theories. This is for someone that I want to go like, I want them to go put their MVP into the world right now. I want them to go test and iterate. I want them to do that cheaply. And you don't even need to be part of like Y Combinator to do that. You don't need whatever it is, 150 grand or how much, I don't know. So this is like, in terms of why, it's just like, it's here. This isn't opportunistic. This isn't like, oh, I could make money. This is like, I want to have the lifestyle that I want. I want a digital business. I don't want a big team. I want to work from home. I'm going to launch this. It's going to run for 8 weeks. People will have lifetime access to this arsenal of knowledge. And then like, I can go like not feed this monster for a few months and I'll go launch it again. But this is also the kind of thing that fits into the introverted, like stay at home kind of person that I am. So there's a lot of different reasons. But I'm doing it with like probably more conviction than anything I've ever done. And that feels really good.
I think that the why is so important. And often, I don't know about your particular journey, I just know enough to be dangerous and have this conversation with you about your previous businesses. But there's often a disconnect that I find when I'm talking to my friends that have done similar things that you've done, I've done, and others that we share in common, of doing like getting sucked into a vortex that you don't really know where you're going or why you're doing it, but it's sort of just like it's inertia, or that's what's happening right now, or it's what's trendy, or and I don't necessarily fault those entrepreneurs myself, but I'm curious to know the stuff that made your previous two businesses hard for you. What are those things, and what have you done to specifically to eliminate them? Because I know you've made some choices, like when you created Girl Boss, as you said, out of the Netflix series and the book, and then gosh, it was probably like 18 months in, you sold that. Like, what are some things that you've done to sort of, once you've got into these positions where you found yourself less happy, or this is not what you signed up for, because you just either, went along with, as you said, you mentioned one comment just a second ago, like your businesses drove you rather than you drove your businesses. What's different this time around, specifically in your brain?
Yeah. I've had explosive growth, with an Nasty Gal. We went from, 250K to 1.1 to 6.5 to $28 million in a few years profitably, right? Before investors came in, and that's a great story. But when you start something without intention, like I said, oh, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, very cool, great story. Things that don't have intention don't scale well. And that's something I talk a lot about in the course, whether it be a brand book or guidelines for like how we work together, how we treat each other, what behaviors are tolerated and aren't. It seems very unnecessary when you have like one employee, or it's just you and you're hiring a contractor or a part-time person to document this kind of stuff. But objective guidelines for people to have that you can point them to and say, this is what we're doing, rather than I think we should do this, allows you to take anything personal out of those conversations as a leader. If it's about something like culture, it's like, no, this is what we all signed up for. And if you're not living up to it, this is very matter of fact. And that allows you to hold people accountable to those, to what those ideals are as you scale your business. And then you can scale it beautifully because you had intention. As far as like a brand book, for example, I've always had really strong brands. Nasty Gal is a great brand. It just kind of, if I just do this, it's not as simple for everybody to just get on board and write copy the way I write copy, or take pictures, or cast models, or style, or curate the way I do, right? And it became a Nasty Gal eventually without, again, a brand book or like guidelines for what the brand is and how to bring that to life. it became like a catty culture of like haves and have-nots of like cool culture, like cool kids. And again, without those objective guidelines, if you're a leader and people aren't governed by those, they're going to say in a room when you're not there, oh, Sophia wouldn't like that. Sophia wouldn't do it like that. And it's just not about that. They'll weaponize. This is a lot.
No,
But people,
but this is what we're here for.
yeah, people will weaponize your brand against other people in the company. There's like, the people who like came out of the magazine world. I mean, it was a fashion company, so of course there's people who are like, oh, I inherently know it's cool, and then in a room they'll just tell someone who has an idea, but maybe didn't, work at the coolest, independent fashion magazine ever. They'll look at this person and be like, that's not on brand. And then the whole that's not on brand thing becomes this thing that people throw around that makes other people feel really bad if they, if they're told that they don't get it. So I guess there's that. I mean, that's a big part of it. And with Girl Boss, I tried to invent a business model. So it was an experiential business. We had podcasts, we had a newsletter. It was a media business, but it wasn't a scaled media business. So we couldn't like run huge banner ads or do, media plans and work with, the media buyers. We were doing kind of integrated brand marketing with people and working with their, PR teams or brand marketers or experiential people. And those are just much smaller budgets than if you're like, hey, we're Refinery 29 and we can blast this ad about your lipstick to a bazillion people. So with Girl Boss, I think, and we also built a social network, I tried to invent a model and it was fine, right? Like we did,
Fine. That's what everybody wants, right?
in
Fine.
terms of the business itself, like
Yeah.
it was a great brand. We did a lot of really, really special things. As far as the business goes, we never quite nailed the thing that would completely scale. And, how I'm applying that to what I'm doing today is there are course creators, there's course software, there are best practices for how you build your email list, how you market to people, how you retarget them, like how you sell this shit. And you don't have to build technology to do it, right? You just have to create really great content. And I'm not a purist about building my own things because every button is a reflection of like who I am, and every single thing is customizable. Like what it's about matters more than like every single pixel, even though most of 95% of the pixels on my site and the site you log into to take the course are pixels I'm happy with. It's just not worth trying to do something that's already been done really well before. Just like, don't make it so hard on yourself. Like you can totally you can invent something, maybe you'll be a unicorn, but it's really hard. It's really, really hard.
And it sounds like that's not actually what you're after. I'm going to put some words in your mouth and you tell me if I'm like on or off. What it sounds like you're striving for is freedom. I'm trying to lock on to if you had some core values that you have learned through your experiences building businesses that you were partners with with other people relative to what you're doing now. Is there a different set of values? And if so, what are those values? I put the word freedom out there because I'm just trying to synthesize, all of the different aspects. Like I don't want it to be like this. I don't want it to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you want? Is it freedom? Is it independence?
Freedom, flexibility, autonomy, independence. I say that. A lifestyle. I didn't know what a lifestyle was in my 20s. I was like drinking every night, out eating oysters, and on business trips, and going to speaking at Cannes Lions, and just always on the go. My house was a crash pad. It's a pretty great house, and now I'm at a point in my life where like I want to, well, one, it's COVID, but like I was eating dinner at home before COVID. Like I was going home after work before COVID, but I still had the startup and I had investors, and there were weeks where I was flying up to, the South Bay or San Francisco and pitching people like every, twice a week or whatever. And that's just exhausting. Like I don't want to have to I don't want to have to network to get done what I want to get done. All I care about is connecting with a community of people who care about what I do. I don't care about press. I don't care about accolades. I don't care about, publishing revenue. I don't care about being a fastest growing company. I just want a lifestyle that I can control. So I think that is freedom, but I also want to do something that is really, I have boundaries now where if what I sign up for requires a shitload of travel, I'm not going to do it. Say I do a TV show, not in the plans, but I've thought about it. And there are non-scripted TV shows where I could go to different people's businesses and fly all over the country to like diagnose them and fix them or whatever. Let's just say that's not what I'm going to do, or I could have a studio but like drive to a studio in Los Angeles, record something in sprints, and then like drive home every day. And so even if I'm thinking about things that are even outside of my comfort zone, like the way I do them, I want to be aligned with the kind of like where I'll play to my strengths. And I'm an introvert, right? I'm the cover of books and like whatever, but I'm way better behind a computer. Like I spent years behind a computer at Nasty Gal before I employed anybody, a year and a half. And like that's where I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable behind a computer. I'm a total troglodyte.
Well, if what you just said, and you're listening out there in any of those like 20 countries that I just shared, if any of those things, the ability to work from home, independence, authenticity, freedom, if any of those things sound exciting to you like they do, I'm getting a lot of questions right now. I'm going to ask a few of those in a second. I again got a sneak peek of Sophia's new class called Business Class, and it is exceptional. It's beautiful, and as someone who has done many of the things that Sophia has, not all of them. I don't have a Netflix show, but having raised venture capital, built a business, had a board, all these other things, like that, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And the things that Sophia shares in Business Class are exactly the things that you cannot get just from an MBA, or you're not going to find in the boardrooms, and you're not going to hear from the venture capitalists, because they don't necessarily want you to build the kind of business that you want to build. They want you to build the kind of business that they want to build. And there's a function for venture capital, but I think what Sophia is sharing here is, to me, this is the hardest stuff to come by, and very few entrepreneurs have put the raw sort of truth out there in one particular course. So I gotta go to a couple of I guess the metaphorical phones. So this is a question from Instagram, the Series Project. Is there anything you regret about your past businesses? And if you could reclaim them, would you?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't think about this a lot, is certainly not giving people, employees, the kind of feedback they need to like develop them, and instead just like throwing in the towel, being like, this person's not right. They don't get it. And that's just like it's way more efficient to grow people than it is to replace them. And people need that kind of guidance. I didn't know in my career that I needed to give people direction because I just don't require direction. It's just weird. I'm a freak, I guess. I'm just too angsty to take anybody's advice. But people really need that to be successful. And I wish I had understood how to like kindly hold people accountable, like how to do that. I hired executives who had careers for longer than I'd been alive, right? I was in my 20s and I was like, you've been working in the corporate world for 25 years.
You must be great.
Can you come in and diagnose my business and hold yourself accountable? You're a grown up. And that's just not how it works. Like everybody, right? We know with quantum physics that like something that is observed behaves differently than something's like that's not observed, or it snaps into place when it's observed, right? I don't know I forget. It's like entanglement. I don't even know. It's not Schrodinger's cat. I don't know. So it applies everywhere, and people need it, and it's actually a generous thing to give them. To me, it felt like, oh God, that was so insulting that I would have to tell them what to do. But it's what people crave, and they need to be successful. So yeah, I would absolutely, if I had worked in an office, had a manager, outside of like a shoe store before I started my first business. Like I might have had an example of what that looked like, but I didn't. And you know, there's something like very sexy, not sexy, but like, oh wow, like 22, blah. But it's like if I could go back, I would have worked in an office environment and had, you know, experienced management, even if it wasn't great, just to know what that even looked like. The only office I've ever worked in, my name was on the lease of, and that just, you know.
If you could take some of those businesses back now, would you? That was the second part of the two-part
Like,
question
like
from the series
still,
project.
like still
Yeah,
work there?
if you could revive them, would you? Or is your new universe the one that you just talked about, freedom, authenticity, connection, independence? Would you not go back because your previous businesses wouldn't have all of that?
Yeah, this is not like an alternative. I mean, this is, you can't change history. Um, you know, I didn't anticipate not, you know, leaving Girl Boss, you know, a few months after I sold it, 6 months after I sold it, but COVID happened. And the company really, you know, we did a lot of events and that all kind of went to zero. But as I think about, you know, this next stage in my life, it's the first time that I haven't really been beholden um, to this beast that I, you know, started. And honestly, if this becomes $100 million company, I'm not going to let that happen because I don't want what comes along with it. I just
Yeah,
don't.
there's not too many kitchen counter $100 million businesses, are there?
I mean, what do you even do with that? You know, I'm like, I want solar panels. I just want solar panels, you know, like I don't need shit, like my clothes, whatever. No, so no, I wouldn't. As much as I loved my time at Nasty Gal and at Girl Boss, and you worked with such amazing people and did super fun stuff. Like I'm having fun, and this is part of my evolution. Even when things don't go right, there's always an opportunity for you to get up and be, you know, to reinvent, and like I just kind of love that. I love it.
Awesome. There's another question coming from YouTube Live that I think is really interesting, and it's a little bit longer, and I'm gonna paraphrase. It's basically, do you believe, and it's from Moise Levy, do you believe that your business can be copied, or is it unique because it's based on your personality?
You know, I thought Nasty Gal was unique based on my personality, and then all these people came around and sold cheaper dresses and cast the same models and sold similar clothes. And like, I do think that that eroded our business because at the end of the day, someone would rather pay $40 for a dress than $70 for a dress. There's just a customer. So I thought Nasty Gal would like, you know, compete on the brand and that people knew the difference, and you know, they'd show up and pay more because Nasty Gal was a feeling, like it was a brand that meant a lot to people. And, you know, these other websites were like a commodity and just like selling stuff. Like nobody was emotional about those brands or purchasing from them. So I think I was like a little overconfident with Nasty Gal because those like cheapo retailers that showed up and the copycats, like I know they, you know, I can't quantify it, but I know they affected our business. With this one, I mean, it's like I think it's just a little naive to say that anything can't happen. I imagine, and this is like, I don't really make claims like this. Similar to Girl Boss the book, there were no millennial women writing business books, and now there's an entire category of it. And Girl Boss has been in every one of their proposals to every publisher saying, like, this is the comp, and this is like what we want to achieve, right? And then I end up blurbing their books. I think this is gonna be that, and I think there's gonna be like a bunch of other like, and that's great based on other people's experiences. So the category will get more crowded because people do want to learn, you know, independently now. Education's changed. Can't even go to college. But I don't think nobody has my story, right? Nobody's fucked up at the scale I've fucked up, and nobody, you know, and plenty of people have like succeeded, whatever, done things way better than me. Um, but my story is a unique one. My experience is a unique one, and what I share, other people like wouldn't share. I just kind of like I told my therapist like, there's nothing I would talk about with you in here but I wouldn't just like tell people. Like it's like all like if it runs through my head, it runs through other people's head for sure. So what and if you want to, it's just kind of like it's way stickier to share what you actually feel than to like make a bunch of shit up. Whatever. You know, I'm gonna throw this in, but and this is one thing that is unique about what you get with business class and you know whatever comes out of my mouth is that you know what I've noticed over the years is that when I talk at a conference, people are just so tickled that I'm genuine, and I'm just like, what are you walking around just like reading a script? Like, what are you doing? What did you make up? Like, what are you hiding? How is this novel? That makes me really sad. And I don't want to be celebrated for that. But hey, if it helps people and it helps them tell their stories and normalizes whatever kind of weird shit that runs through my head and, you know, perverted kind of like business mistakes and not perverted, but just like whatever is how I'm going to articulate myself now on this, in this interview.
That's your defining character.
Just like whatever. That's the answer to your question.
Well,
brilliant.
No, I think there's something very serious embedded in there. This idea that, you know, go back to the question is like, is your idea unique? And most ideas are not unique, but the personality behind them, what you put into it, that is whether it's art or entrepreneurship. I think what I'm hearing from you and what I've personally experienced is this. When I think of you and your brand, whatever it is that you make, that's the reason that I'm interested in it, because you personally have a set of experiences that very few people, if any, have. And I think that's what makes the thing interesting and valuable. And the goal isn't to try and, you know, for those people who are going to take the business class, the goal isn't to be the next Sophia. I'm guessing the goal, and what I know from your course and from the welcome and the idea audit, especially up front in the course, is that you're trying to help people be the best versions of themselves and bring the unique set of skills that they have. And that's one of the, you know, as someone who's through CreativeLive has built, you know, 2,000 classes. And when I'm looking at business class, you know, your recent launch today, in fact, for anyone who's just joining us late, is like that. The thing that are your weirdest, quirkiest, most unique experiences, that's the thing, whether you're a creator or entrepreneur, that you need to put the most of into your business. And when I see your work out there and when I see what you produced, to me, those are the defining characteristics, unmistakably Sophia. So yeah, and to that end, got a couple of other questions. One in particular that is getting at me here, which is, why now? We got Grady, we've got Dylan, Esmeralda, Bruce, Caleb, Marcelo.
I'm compelled. I'm compelled. Like this is like a vacation. Like did I interrupt you?
No, but there's just a lot of people.
Fun.
And the common thread is, why now? Like, why are you putting this out there? Is it specifically timed, or are you just sitting in your home twiddling your thumbs? What can I do? This is something I can do from my home.
Afford to twiddle my thumbs. I have a mortgage. Like, I'm subscribed to a life that, like, if I don't earn a living, like, I don't want to burn through cash. Like, I'm not, like, you know, destitute, but I'm also not someone who just wants to, like, blow money. I don't understand, like, I mean, maybe someday I'll take a sabbatical or whatever people do. I don't know how
I'm wondering about that at some point.
I don't know how people afford that. I don't relate to it, and I'm just having a blast. Like, this is like getting a massage. Every time I see a piece of, like, creative that is part of this brand, and every time, you know, I finish a worksheet and look at, like, all the interesting ways that I never even realized that I reverse engineer things that I take people through, that they're able to do, like, I'm really inspired. And I'm just, it's like, I think people think you're supposed to, like, take breaks and, like, go away, especially as, like, a public figure. Like, oh my God, you're like Beetlejuice. This is, like, the third business. It's like, do I have to say it 3 times? Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice? Like, are you going to go away? And I'm just like.
If you're 20 and you don't know what she means, look it up. Okay, so why now? The answer then is, because this is the time of life that you're in. You feel like you've got another idea that you want to put out there in the world. So Is that fair to say, or am
Yeah,
I
just like
unfair?
it's like
Well,
this is channeled. Like this is just it's just there. So it's like why would I sit on it?
as someone who's been along for a couple in your friend circle for a couple of these businesses, this to me seems crazy focused and crazy aligned with who I understand you to be. And again, for those who are just joining us, we got a couple of folks, Gotham City just tuned in. We've got another Argentina. If you're just joining, I'm sitting with Sophia Amoruso, and she today, like, I don't know, 7 hours ago, launched her new online course called Business Class. Can you walk us through just a few specifics, like for the folks right now who are like typing it into their browser? What is it you get? Why do you know? What's the? I'm sure you got a. Ooh, that is so beautiful, by the way. It's amazing. It's
This
incredible.
gets shipped to your house no matter where in the world you are. This is blue skies ahead. And this is what you put your hundreds of worksheets in as you go through the course over 8 weeks that I lead you through and do weekly Zoom calls. But you also get lifetime access to a war chest of shit that I know or have experienced or watched other people do or not do, along with best practices and whatever. It's all on the landing page at takebusinessclass.com. But you get everything. There's a bunch of bonuses too. So there's like 8 week, okay, so there's 8 flights. Those are modules. Modules are called flights. Within the modules, there are lessons, multiple lessons. So if it's the, finance and legal, it's like intellectual property, LLCs or corporations, finances. So that's like the the less fun visual one. But those are each called legs. So there's flights and there's legs. And I take you through everything from just like naming your strengths and discovering what your strengths are at the top of the course, to doing a competitive analysis and just kind of figuring out, there's a lot of reverse engineering. So just, like literally when I don't want to talk about it, I can't give it all away, but, scoping out your competition, plotting out where you sit on that map, doing a SWOT analysis. So there are some kind of MBA business school kind of exercises in there because I've done them and I think they're good. And I was resistant at first to be like, what is this weird graph or, and like some of this stuff is important. Problem solution, figuring out what problem you're solving for, how to solve it, how to talk to your customer to make sure that like you're actually solving a problem and, relieving friction that they have in the world. Putting together your MVP or minimum viable product and throwing that into the world, putting out the ugliest, most basic thing you can as quickly as possible and getting feedback as quickly as possible, all the way to naming your business, like such a fun exercise in naming. And even if you have a business name, it's like you're going to name another product, you're going to name more things, and I'm good at names and I love it. To logos, brand identity, colors, complementary fonts, building a website, paid marketing, earned, owned, running a Facebook ad, to, what compliance means with employees, how to recruit, how to negotiate. There's a whole module on negotiation. So negotiating, it's a bonus amenity. Negotiating on with vendors, with clients, so grinding vendors down, getting clients to pay more and paying people fairly but not overpaying them, and whether or not you should put out the number first or second. And there's also another bonus module there's one on getting press and pitching yourself to be on podcasts and things like this, because not everyone can afford a publicist. There's also a module on hiring for diversity and inclusion, which is taught by a woman named Victoria Tori Bell, who founded the Black Women at Facebook group, and 8 essential legal documents that are worth like $3,000.
I thought it was 10. I think it's 10.
I don't know how to. It's like I haven't gotten the bill yet, so I didn't want to like overvalue.
What you just listed that's an insane amount of information and value. And I'm just gonna go not blowing smoke, but I'm gonna go right at it. My favorite thing about this is that it's not. When I read business books, and I've read if it's been on the bestseller list, I would say I've read it over the past like 5 years. And what is not true about this course is that most of those books that are full of shit are, if you have a perfect life and a perfect idea and you take these perfect steps and you're going to have this great little, thing. And I just don't know anyone's life, anyone's entrepreneurial experience who looks or smells anything like that. And
No.
yours comes from tangible, like you share when what you did has worked and what you did has not worked. And the fact that, to me, that is my favorite thing about it. It's like Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, when you have chapters that are titled How to Fire Your Friend and How to Tell Your Employees That You Don't Have Any Money. And, those are the real things that entrepreneurs solve. And that's my favorite thing about what you've done with Business Class is it's so practical from someone who's actually lived it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm getting a lot of thank yous from around the world, if that's true. And there's two questions that we have to get in. One is from Kyra James from Instagram Live. And they're asking, who is the ideal customer for this course? Who should buy this course?
Yeah. So we call the ideal customer the perfect passenger on Business Class. And my perfect passenger is someone who either has an existing business and may be a creative, or someone who didn't necessarily go to business school, or did but is actually trying to implement what it is that they learned and maybe doesn't have exposure to someone who's done it. So someone with a business who wants to professionalize and get it right in the beginning and make sure that you build something that will scale beautifully, rather than kind of cheaping out and thinking that it takes too much time to do these things, because it'll really bite you in the long run. It'll really catch up to you if you don't know or do these things, as well as someone who has a solid idea and is serious about building a business and validating their idea, not necessarily dumping a ton of money into it, but someone who's not noodling on maybe, I don't know, because this is dense. It's it's serious. It's not fluffy. It's hopefully it's inspirational by the, runoff that comes with creating your own amazing brand and business, but it's not fluffy or formulaic. And it's not, something that, it's something for someone who's serious but also loves puns and beauty.
Speaking of beauty, Jason Naylor on Facebook says, wow, the design and packaging on your course is incredible.
Thank you.
Dylan asks if this works for creatives like artists, because he wants to pitch this to his wife. I think I can answer that and saying, heck yeah, seems to me who it's targeted for. And then I think there's another corollary to the who's your ideal passenger in your world. This question comes from D. Casey Photo, asking your opinion on success for people in other parts of the world. Is this just a dream that's possible in America, or can I learn something for my home territory?
Yeah, the only things that don't apply internationally, I mean, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about finance. There are a few things like LLCs and corporations, employment law, and intellectual property, like trademarks and protecting the name of your business. Those things are different in the U.S. This is for every country. So we ship this beautiful notebook to every single country in the world. And it's your audience is international. Mine is as well. And I think it's hard to, it's the whole kind of trope that online courses kind of sell, that anybody can do anything just like me, I think is really, really a disservice to people.
Say more about that.
So everybody has a different experience and is starting from a different place, and the whole if you put your mind to it, you can do it. I mean, I believe that absolutely, right? I believe that we can manifest things through hard work and good intentions and educating ourselves, and hopefully this is part of that. But when not everybody is starting from the place that I started, right? Like, I wasn't destitute. I had a crappy old Volvo, but I grew up solidly middle class. I'm white. The first stuff I sold online was stolen, and I got away with that. And that's a funny part of my book, but like, I got away with that because I'm a white girl, And there's a lot of, there's rooms that I've walked into that I'm more accepted in or invited to those tables because I fit in better than someone who is marginalized, right? So as far as other countries go, right, I don't know specifically where you are, what your set of circumstances is. The advice in business class is pretty universal advice outside of like a few things that have to do with like legal. It's leadership, it's marketing. I mean, it's everything that works, and we're all building businesses on such a global level that unless there's some kind of new retail format in a country that's physical, or it's like it's so yes, I think it would apply to you.
Awesome. Ron, also from Facebook, asks, I didn't know that owning a business would end up being a psychological exercise in managing my personal issues so I can operate successfully. Have you found that being a business owner requires the same of you to get through personal stuff, obstacles, overcoming fear, etc.?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty heartfelt and honest question. Like
yeah, doing anything is hard. Everything is hard, whether it's personal or professional. And I feel, even though I've been dragged through the mud, I've had really bad publicity. I built a crappy culture at Nasty. I just didn't know what I was doing. Like, all of those things I've taken to heart and actually considered if they're true. So every hardship I've experienced, or everything that's been said about me that is, by someone who doesn't actually know what happened, or doesn't know who I am, or is just writing a sensational headline, I consider it all. And I've had an opportunity, whether it's employee feedback, right? I consider it all, and kind of like, I don't take it all for, at face value, but there's an opportunity to learn from everything that happens in your business, good and bad. And actually, success just makes you lazy, right? Like, when you're on top of the world, you don't see what's like below the tide. It's like a bunch of weird crabs and like dead crabs and funky mud and trash. Sometimes, canned beer, empty cans. But so and I personally think that business is just a kind of vehicle for you to, if you listen, be a better person. So I'm an only child, and greasy. I'm an only child who didn't really learn to share, I didn't finish college, so finishing things was like, was without discipline. And through business, I've kind of rounded out, I think, a lot of the things I would have probably gotten growing up had I had siblings or happy parents, or, I've learned a lot about communication and boundaries and things that do apply to my personal life that I feel so lucky have been, and to have been able to learn with something that is also inspiring to me and, has for the most part made money. So I think, businesses can be like a very kind of spiritual journey if you're listening for the lessons.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that in the section and the course around management and leadership. And those are very different things. And of course, you go deep on the culture part, which is where you are. You've shared before, that's like a new leaf for you. What is it that you want to build, and how can you be intentional about it? What's hard right now? This is a new adventure for you, and I think you've done a good job of sharing past challenges and overcoming, whether it's venture capital or a lower price competitor or whatever. But what's hard now?
I mean, I think it's taking care of myself. I think I'm supposed to say, this whole lifestyle thing, like, it comes after launching a business. I can talk all about wellness, and, the last few weeks have been, 16, 18-hour days. Like, I went to bed at like 3:30 a.m. last night, and Fast Company broke at 4 a.m. and I was up for a team group call and looking at sales coming through very early in the morning. So honestly, I think it's like eating, like not ordering delivery.
Actually cooking at your own house, good
I just
food.
miss cooking. Yeah, I'm kind of like burnt out on like pokey delivery and sweet green. What else is hard? I mean, it's hard and really romantic, but if you go on the website at takebusinessclass.com, there's like a beautiful video. So all of the course lessons and then the video you see on the homepage were shot, directed, like mic'd up, edited, including graphics and sound, by my boyfriend, Galen, who I've been with for 4.5 years. And it's beautiful, but like we're in our house, like working together, and it's been really, really fun. But it's also like we haven't stopped to just be together in a little while. So I think that's challenging. I think it's, it can take a toll on your relation. We're fine, but I just kind of like miss not doing anything with him.
Thanks for sharing that part of it. And also, folks around the world like Ron and Sergi and Kelly and Tomas are thankful to get led into your inner circle here. So, speaking of that, what's next? Like, if I know that maybe you can reshare with us, there's a limited opening for your course. It opens today, and you have to get in by a certain time. And so explain a little bit about how it works. So if
Yeah.
anyone who's listening does want to check it out. And again, I need to go on record as someone who's seen it and made a lot of this stuff myself for 10 years. And I feel like I've seen everything under the sun. This is super well done. And it's very, very valuable information that you can really only learn from someone who has had the type of experience that Sophia has had. So my personal endorsement right there. But walk people through what their experience would be and how long they've got, because it's, as you
Yeah.
mentioned before we got live, there's it's not for everyone, and and it's limited in space and time. So give people the instructions.
Yeah, so because business class is a course for entrepreneurs who, with which I do weekly group calls and I answer everybody's questions, both about the course content, and we have a private online community. It's an app for iOS and I can't believe how much we pulled off in 3 months, but it's a iOS and Android app called The Lounge. So I'm in there as well, and because of that, it has to be over a finite period where I'm taking kind of like a class of students through business class, and it's just not like here's a thing, so we have to close the doors and take off by by a certain date. And so doors close October 9th. So you cannot purchase business class for an indefinite period, because hopefully I can sleep for several months after this. This is the only time you can really buy it until I just feel like doing it again. Like there's no 2021 plan. I'll write a book or something, do a podcast. But so it's open for the next 3 weeks. It's $19.99 US dollars, and we have a payment plan for US customers that's $99 a month, which is pretty awesome. What else? Yeah, so because I'm in there every week with you, I can't do that all year round. So I wanted to make something that was like super surgical, where I could really contribute and give people my time.
Awesome. Now, a little speed round here because we're up against time, and I know since it's launch day, you've got sales numbers to look at. I know you've got some other press that you're doing. So first of all, I want to say thanks from the CreativeLive community worldwide, and there's a lot of gratitude in the comments. But speed round. So if this is your next endeavor, will you be doing anything else, or is this your full-time focus?
I mean, I can kind of do whatever I want. When you have investors and you try to do something else, they're like, what are you doing? You should be focused on making me more money. But I don't have investors, so I can kind of do whatever I want, and I want to do whatever I'm inspired by. It has to make some money, but if, if 5 people take this and are elated by, and their lives are changed, I'm much happier than 2,000 people taking it and like feeling kind of, you know, blasé about it. Because I can like go do a podcast. I can, and I don't say podcast like it would just be a podcast, but like there's plenty more for me to do. And I'll probably do it on top of this because I like to pile things on myself, but I'm going to phase them out much better than I have in the past. So there'll be another book, there'll be another podcast. Beyond that, I don't know, maybe I'll make some more cool merch or something, but this is like, I'm just like, I'm doing this right now. And then beyond that, like I get to be creative.
It seems like, you want to have, there's a little bit more levity and a little bit more playfulness in what I'm seeing and hearing from you than some of your other adventures. Is there why?
Bootstrapping's just fun, it's like I've invested my own money in this, so I'm not starting from nothing, but a lot's on the line. And, every time I write I wrote all the copy for that, like really, really long landing page, like there's no phoning it in here. And when someone loves it, like I, for the most part, am like, outside of, the video or, some of the design, it's like, oh wow, like the content I created, I feel connected to what it is that I'm doing in ways that are harder to when you have teams executing on your behalf. And I'm just like, I like being in the weeds and, like tweaking. I'm just like a tweaker. And when I tweak something and it makes something better and someone responds to it and their life is better, or they purchase it or convert or whatever, respond to it or inspired by it, like that's just so gratifying. So I like being on the ground. I like being in the weeds, and I can only do that because I don't have a big team. You're kind of a dummy if you're in the weeds and you have a team. You can't do that. But for me, general management, I'm like not good at it. So I'm doing what I'm good at. I love it.
Well, it's insanely inspiring. And I think this concept of individuality, freedom, doing what you're good at, being passionate, staying close to the product, if any of these things sound like something that you're passionate about, I personally recommend you check out Sophia's new course at takebusinessclass.com. And I just want to say thanks for putting you into your work. It's fun to see, and for sharing the story of like what can happen when you do get all those things. And as someone who has investors, like it's just a different business model, and I respect and appreciate that. But for so many people out there, that's like a more of a one size fits all, or one size fits most. And what I've seen from you and what I know this audience cares about is all of this, the individuality, the opportunity to build and connect with something that they care about. So long-winded. Thank you.
Thank
you.
A
huge congratulations for launching it. I wish you all the success that you deserve, and I can't wait to hear about all the nitty gritty on the back end.
Thank you. I'm going to bug you. I'm going to pick your brain.
Happy to do it. And from people all over the world, Hawken, Jacqueline, Dylan, Randall, Grady, Kelly, Ron, Sarah, Sally. I can't pronounce that. I think it's Ulumo. People are saying thank you so much for sharing what it is that you've done and are doing with the world. And I'm guessing some people are going to be excited to tap into business class. And until next time, I bid you do anything. Any parting words of wisdom?
Bon voyage.
Oh, that's just right on brand, as they say. Well played. Thank you so much for being on the show, Sophia.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Ciao for everybody.
Bye,
and
Chase.
Again, if you just tuned in, that was Sophia Amoruso, and I hope you enjoyed another episode here of Chase Service Live Show on CreativeLive. More coming soon. Until next time, I bid you adieu.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of CreativeLive. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new experience on Creative